everybody. It's Colleen and myself from Empowered Voices. We are here yet again to do our March podcast now, our third one. Love the number 3. Just going to say that.
Me too. Favorite number.
Yeah, it shows up in my life quite a bit. So we're going to start like we normally do and have Colleen give us the astrology insight as to what's going on for where we are in March.
Okay, so, I want to take a look, first of all, at just the universal month vibration of the month of March, because that's going to give us an idea of, I like to call it the flavor of the month, so to speak. So, and figuring that out, we're in that universal year of a 4. March is the third month. Yay, the number 3 comes up again. And when we add the 4 and the 3 together, we get the 7. So numerologically speaking, March has this 7 vibration to it, which is actually a very interesting number because it's an emotional number, a mental number, and a spiritual number all rolled up into one. And when we think about it from a number perspective, that number 7 is about pulling back our energies and kind of going within and connecting with our higher soul self or our inner voice or inner guide. It's about faith. It's about trust. It's sometimes about analyzing and sometimes over-analyzing. The number 7 can kind of get caught in that over-analyzing energy where we're thinking a little bit too much rather than feeling, which is why it's both a mental and mental and an emotional number. But if we think about the 7th major arcana, because I always like to look at the vibration of the month from the tarot perspective as well to gain even a deeper understanding. March is going to be vibrating to the Chariot card because the 7th major arcana is the Chariot. There we go. Thank you, Kathy. She had that ready to go. And so, if we think about the Chariot, I'm going to ask Kathy because, she, right now teaches tarot and probably can go a little bit deeper into that than I. But to me, the Chariot is about moving forward, but about also needing to kind of rein in and focus our energies in order to move forward. Because as you saw in that card, we have a white horse and we have a black horse or a dark horse. Usually in the tarot, they're depicted as moving in slightly opposite directions. And this is, to me, the white horse symbolizing our spiritual nature, the dark horse maybe symbolizing our ego nature. And sometimes those things kind of pull against or push against one another. And so to me, this is about reining in our energies, bringing things kind of into a balance and focus so that we can move forward in that Chariot and move ahead. And what's interesting from an astrological standpoint is that we're in Pisces season, and Pisces is this elusive sign, this not grounded or not focused sign of the zodiac. It's a very spiritual sign, bringing in that spiritual aspect of the number 7, but it sometimes lacks a little bit of clarity. It sometimes brings in a little bit of confusion, which is why we have to have that faith and trust. And we're going to be in Pisces season, at least the sun is in Pisces, until the spring equinox on March 19th. Now, Mercury, which is the planet of the mental realm, our thoughts, our ideas, our communications, it's retrograde in Pisces. And by the time it turns back to direct motion on March 9th, it's still going to be in Pisces for the rest of the month. Okay, so we have, again, all this Pisces energy that says we need to go with the flow, we need to trust and have faith. We maybe aren't feeling very grounded or focused. We can't see what's ahead. We're in more of this Piscean dream state, this vision state, this state where magic happens because it's in the spiritual realm. And this is where we can kind of visualize and see and intend and really kind of allow that magic of the universe to happen for us. But sometimes, again, it can get a little off course or a little confusing. And with the lack of clarity probably going on in our lives right now in situations and circumstances, we might be feeling a little frustrated. We might be feeling a little bit of a lack of motivation. We might be feeling a lack of even belief or believing in ourselves or believing in our path because things aren't necessarily manifesting, or things aren't necessarily even moving forward in a focused way, because again, that chariot, we have those two horses. And I'd like to hear from you, Kathy, any additional thoughts or ideas about that chariot vibration.
Well, no, but I mean, well, yes, but I think it's funny how you say you don't know it. I'm like, oh no, she knows it. She's got it right on point. Is what I'm thinking in my head while you're talking, because it was very on point. That's exactly what the chariot is about. It's about moving forward, but finding the balance to move forward, like pulling it in, reining it in, so that you can then move forward on your journey. But it's also trying to not make things happen before the time, which is what we're finding is happening right now. I learn a lot through my clients, is what I always say, when people ask me questions, because it's about finding the line of connection between everybody that's coming to me, and starting to get, believe it or not, through them coming in and asking questions, it lets me know what we're all working on right now. Not that I don't get it on my own clearly, even in my own life. But again, the chariot is all about moving forward. And like you said, finding the balance. So it's about releasing, and it's about your chariot, your personal chariot, not about getting in somebody else's chariot and moving forward. It's about you working on you trusting in what's coming for you trusting that where you are right where you are meant to be at this point in time, which I know is one of the things we talking about, because it seems like people are just a little frustrated on this path right now. Because again, we just went through what I found to be, and I'm just going to say this, I found this particular retrograde to be a little intense this time. Very peaks and valleys as far as emotions, very emotional, incredible emotions flying in this one, which also gives us that headaches, because I've heard a lot about having headaches. I've heard a lot about having physical symptoms, colds, flus, bronchitis, pneumonia, those kinds of things. So it kind of like, it all comes, believe it or not, we're talking about the chariot, but it all comes into an alignment with that, because we're cleansing and clearing in many different forms than just the mental realm or the releasing realm. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of physical health connections that I'm seeing that go through this. So you're almost physically, health-wise, releasing in the process as well.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of headaches. I've had some nausea. I've had a lot of fatigue. Pisces is that, again, spiritual, ethereal kind of sign. And almost like we're not totally grounded in the third dimension. And, so there can be a little bit of fatigue that goes along with this purging, cleansing, completion time period of Pisces. And just prior, to this podcast that we're doing here, for March 11th. Mercury went back to direct motion on March 9th, and the full moon in the sign of Virgo with the sun in Pisces was on March 9th. So, these last few days here leading up to, us putting out this podcast here for March has been, I want to say, a little probably tricky. And I think it's important to pay attention to that this full moon in Virgo on March 9th is the last full moon in this Pisces time period. So it's a real, and for the 2 weeks after that full moon, that waning time period of the releasing, healing, and letting go that follows that full moon, again, until we reach the spring equinox on the 19th of March. This is really, again, a time to complete. And not only what Kathy was saying on that mental, emotional, and even the physical body level, but I want to say with patterns too. Like, this is about spiritual patterns, karmic patterns, relationship patterns, or patterns within our career path, life path, destiny path.
Well, and starting to see it. And this is the whole thing, is starting to see it and acknowledge it. That's the big caveat that's coming now. Is that you're no longer able to sort of like shove it away, because it's just going to stay right here. It's going to stay in your face and stay in your face. So if you are, I'm a big one for like painting pictures, if that makes sense. So if you're a big one, if you're looking at, financial patterns that you come back to, it's paying attention to that and saying, you know what, I'm breaking this chain. Like, I'm going to break, starting today, I'm going to break this chain. But I have to say one thing about, you commented about, you were talking about the full moon and you were talking about Pisces. So, and again, not the astrologist, Just saying, just going to say that up front. But what I heard when you said that is like Pisces to me is water. I love water. I love anything to do with water, but water is also about emotions for me, which is what we're talking about. We're talking about being in the emotional realm. But then you talk about the full moon, that is such clarity. Like for me, if you think of the moon card in the tarot deck, which I don't have that one right in front of me. But I mean, I certainly could pull it out to show y'all because I will. But if you think of the moon card to me is always about clarity, like no longer being able to hide in the shadows, to where everything will be seen. Because if you've ever seen a full moon or stood out in a full moon or drove in a full moon, it's almost like everything is so clear. You can see so clearly. And that's what it always speaks to me as. The full moon is that everything is such clarity. But the big caveat is you cannot hide anything anymore because the moon comes in to that. And so if we're talking about emotions and releasing those emotional and physical and mental issues, when the full moon comes in, there's clarity that Pisces is here with the water for the emotions, and the full moon comes in. It's like you are seeing things clearly, whether you want to see them or not, it's a whole nother story, but pay attention to that.
Right.
Start working on that.
Isn't it true with the moon card though too? When you're seeing things with such clarity, you're seeing what we might term the shadow. We're seeing our fears, we're seeing our anxieties, we're seeing those types
so clearly.
Things. Right. Yeah. And
absolutely.
So, you'd also said something about water and loving water, and it reminded me that I've been having a lot of dreams. First of all, just a lot of dreams, period, that I'm remembering when I wake up, a lot of processing things going on, but a lot of dreams with water. And again, Pisces is a water sign. And, and to me, water, when I dream about water, it usually means there's something with my emotions happening. Just like you said, water is the emotions. And so
exactly.
There's a lot of emotional processing going on. And so I think too, in this Pisces completion phase, I just want to tell people, pay attention to your dreams. Maybe it's a processing dream, but it also could very well be some sort of psychic clairvoyant dream as well. To me, Pisces being one of the water signs is heightening our intuitive, psychic, and healing abilities. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, beautiful. So it's heightening our healing and psychic abilities, at the same time that it's bringing in all of these other things with the dreams and the need to surrender and go with the flow and have trust and faith and whatnot.
Absolutely. It's also just acknowledging, like I'm the type of person, I know I dream, everybody dreams, but I tend to not remember them a lot, or I'll remember like one tiny piece. And then I'm like you, I'm always like, what did that mean? But lately the same thing. I wake up in the morning and I'm having like the craziest dreams.
Yeah.
To where you're like, what is up with that? Like, what does that even mean? But the one thing I'll tell y'all is sometimes a dream is just a dream. So try to look at it. If it makes sense to you in some way, well, clearly pay attention to that. And it's a lot of what we're going through is don't drive yourself nuts over it. Don't make yourself crazy over it. Write, if you're a writer, write it down for yourself so that maybe it's something that will eventually make sense to you, or parts of it might make sense to you. And I also love the moon too. I love the energy of the moon and the clarity of the moon, because I am a moon child after all. So, but just coming through to like, I think, and again, I kind of going back to the charity piece, the charity card, that we're in a time of truly acknowledging who we are, truly going within, truly trusting and believing that we will get to the place that we are meant to get to. And everything is divine timing. At this point in time, up until now, we have not been able to force anything to happen. You have to trust and believe that it's going to happen if it's meant to be for your highest and greatest good. If you're trying to create something and the biggest thing, if your heart is so passionate about this, then keep going, because it will eventually come into fruition. That's the big thing. If your head is really passionate about this, maybe not so much. Maybe you want to sit back with it a little bit, go into your heart space, let it speak to you. It's not that it's not a great idea. It's not that it can't happen, but maybe it needs to be shifted or tweaked or whatever so it can come from your heart space. to be able to create it and to be able to come to fruition. But it's about trusting it, that the place that you are, and that's the biggest thing right now, is trust, 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 trust. And some days it's not easy.
And if you
Right.
see that things aren't necessarily unfolding as you desire or manifesting quite yet, remember again, we're in Pisces energy, and Pisces is the spiritual realm. It's not the third dimensional realm. It's not the realm of form and solidity and shape. This is about, if you want to intend something, if you want to manifest something, do it right now through meditation, through visualization, through intentions, through prayer. Do it from that spiritual perspective, because what's going to happen here, first of all, we're again purging and cleansing. Our dreams are helping us to heal, and we're going through the physical, purge with physical symptoms. And again, this kind of time of completion with the Pisces. And if we send out through our imagination, if you want to call it imagination, or through, again, visualization, if you send out what it is that you desire to create and manifest in your life, what's going to happen is, by the time we get to that spring equinox on March 19th, and the sun moves into Aries, which is the true new beginning, it's the beginning of the astrological new year. Aries, a time of spring, a time of planting seeds, a time of new birth and new growth that starts to take form. And remember, as we plant a seed, it's not like overnight we have a full bloom flower, right? We plant the seeds, we nurture them, we water them, we tend to them. And over the course of the year through spring, and when we get to summer is when things are kind of starting to really bloom. So I want to say, set your intentions now. Again, visualize them, pray about them, see them, and feel them. Feel with excitement and joy and exuberance. That's part of the manifestation process. And then plant the seeds after the spring equinox, or at the spring equinox, do a special ceremony and take some sort of action, because now Aries, when we get to Aries, is an action sign. Aries is fire. Aries is initiation. And so this is where we take charge and we initiate through some sort of action. Not that you can't take actions now, always, take actions, but really take some sort of forward moving action after the spring equinox. And then again, tend to the seeds that you plant, and then watch them grow. Then they'll start to unfold into some sort of manifestation, I think.
Right. Well, and to go along with that, are we not also, we're in the water time, but we're also in the earth time. So if you take the dirt and you take the water, what does it make? And of course, some people say mud, but it can make clay. So it's a molding time, which goes with the planting of the seed time. Spring to me is always about springing forward. So I always remember it, because we spring forward with the time piece. Yeah. So it's always like, fall, we fall behind, we fall back, and spring, we spring forward. But it is true. It is such a great cultivation time right now for you. But the other thing too is, as you're starting to know who you are and you're releasing, it's Colleen and I were talking about this. As you start to, that always makes me giggle how we talk about things and then we end up saying it in the podcast. But as you start to release and you start to find the true essence of who you are, and you come to that light of who you know yourself to be, and your light gets bigger and brighter and brighter and brighter, you get to that point to where you're like, okay, so I've released all of this, so this should be coming right now, like now. It doesn't work that way. Because you have to remember, how many lifetimes have we carried this energy? Not just this lifetime, but how many lifetimes have we carried this energy or pattern or physical ailment, or, again, whatever's going on. Just because we've now chosen to release that, it's almost like creating a new tape for yourself. It takes time, or a new habit for yourself. It takes time for you to get it. It takes time for you to repeat it. It takes time for you to make sure that you have released all of it, that you have finally let it go. Because there's a lot of times that it'll come back. They'll be like, we're just going to check and see if you're letting us go. Let me just tap on your shoulder and say, hey, are you really letting us go? Because we're not really feeling it. Just to make sure that you're in that space of doing that. And that, once you have committed to that and you start to walk the new path, that's when the things start to flow. The energy starts to build, and it builds and it builds and it builds. So you can get to that new, whatever you're trying to do for yourself, whether it's a new life, a new home, a new car, a new, again, whatever you're trying to manifest, a new workshop, a new book, a new class, a new meditation. It's all of the things that will help you. And trusting and believing that again, that you are where you are meant to be in every moment of your path. But it also comes back to that piece of knowing, and this is the Chariot sort of like in my head again, very profound for this whole talk today, the Chariot. Just that analogy is so hitting it on the head, so to speak. But the Chariot, if you come back to that, we are so busy looking out here for everything that we think we need. Like, I need you to help me feel better. I need this job to help me feel better. I need this chocolate to help me feel better.
You need that chocolate to help me feel better, Kathy.
And I'm not saying it's all a no, but what I'm saying is that we're so busy looking out here that we're not paying attention to we are the ones we're looking for. Right. And I had this whole profound moment, and I'm going to try to be as brief with this as I can, but literally saw Frozen 2. In the song, it's about Elsa trying to find this, what she thinks is outside of herself. And there's a song that fits with this pattern, with this channel that I've gotten since the beginning of the year. And literally, as I'm watching this with my children, at the end, towards the end of the song, she says, she has this profound moment to where she's like, I am the one I've been looking for. And I mean, I have wicked goosebumps why I say this. But I was like, oh my gosh, that's the channel I've been getting since the beginning of the year. Like, that's the phrase I've been getting since the beginning of the year, is we are the ones we're looking for. Not anything outside of us can give us what we want, what we need, or what will take it to validate ourselves. We are the ones we're looking for.
And isn't it so interesting that Pisces is the sign that kind of rules the collective? It rules all these energies of the collective and the spiritual realm. And we get kind of caught up in that because we all are interconnected. But then we come to, again, Aries at the spring equinox, and Aries is the sign of the self, the individual. And so we find ourselves again, right?
Absolutely.
Not that we're not connected to the collective anymore, but I think, we start to...
I think we become stronger. I think we become even more connected.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. And there was something, when you were talking about time, I can't remember exactly what you said, but it made me think too of that. Well, first of all, there was two things that came into my mind. One is that we have to travel through these cycles of energies as a soul. We're always going through cycles, and sometimes the cycles ask us to kind of surrender and be within and be more of a into a receptive, divine feminine and allowing mode. And then sometimes we're in a cycle of energy to where it's more that divine masculine of taking charge or taking an action or making something happen. And so we're always going through that ebb and flow of the cycles. And so it's great to, be able to listen to or understand things like we're talking about with, the movement of the cards through the tarot and how they vibrate to the months or the astrological, or numerological energy vibrations. And that gives us a real idea, is it time this month to more surrender and allow and be reflective? Or is it time to really take an action, in which case now I can start moving forward or see more forward movement and have things manifest? But the other thing about time that I thought about when you were talking, Kathy, is the fact that I think deep within our consciousness, a lot of us have this inner, and I want to call it a subconscious knowingness, to where when we're in a different realm of reality, a different time and space, a different dimension, if you will, that things happen faster. And when you say, I want it now, why isn't it happening now? And it makes me think that, we're used to having a thought and being able to create it right away, because that's, our normal space to be in. That's the normal energy to be in when we're not in this third dimensional realm or in this physical third dimensional body, if you will. Fifth dimension, higher dimensions, we're able to say, oh, I am thinking about this, and oh, there it is, the beautiful thing that I just thought about instantaneously. And here we're working through this time-space element of needing to have more patience, I guess, and learning about focus and learning about effort and learning about the processes that we need to go through on this planet in order to create something. I don't know what you think about that, but
Well,
that's
no,
what
yeah, I mean, yes, we are meant to work on ourselves. Yes, this is a big time for us to sort of say, okay, I'm going to just set my family aside for a minute. I'm going to focus on myself. I'm going to find, get to a better space within myself. But it's also about so that then we have, as you said, the patience, which with my students, I'm always like, oh, it's P word time. And all of them go, oh, no. It's almost like a swear. Oh.
I don't know how many times I use the P word in a reading, and people are always like, I've had patience. I don't want to have patience anymore.
Exactly. But what it really comes back to is patience time to me is always now about just trusting the process, trusting that if you're in that sort of in our minds, that non-movement phase, there's a reason for it. Like sort of change your perception about that. So you can say, well, wow, I've been able to spend some great time with my kids. I've been able to like get outside and enjoy the outdoors, so there's always a reason why spirit wants us to just take that time. And I know for myself, when I have pushed myself, I usually end up sick because spirit's like, okay, listen, we've tried to tell you to calm down. We've tried to tell you to take a little time off and you're not listening. So we're going to help you out with that. And it always ends up becoming a good thing, but it's also trying to get ourselves into the right frame of mind because there's a lot of unity and community that needs to happen. But yourself, it's almost like being in a relationship with somebody. If you don't love yourself enough, if you don't, even enough is not even the right word. If you don't love yourself in the true essence of who you're meant to be, how can you possibly have a relationship outside of yourself that's not going to be a challenge in some way or push you in a direction that maybe you don't really want to be pushed? So it is a lot of like getting ourselves in the place that we need to be, getting ourselves in the mindset of where we need to be for our essence so that we can send our love and share our love in such a beautiful way with everybody that comes around us. Right. And so now's also a time that you might find as you start to get on your path and you're healing yourself and getting to that better frame of mind or that better place of mind or that better emotion, you're finding yourself starting to see friends sort of like, go on their own path, but you've got others that are coming in because, there's as we build our vibration, it's not that they're no longer your friend. It's just that they can't be in the vibration that you're in right now. They can't connect to the vibration that you're at right now. And it's knowing that that's okay. Like it's okay for both of you to continue to go where you need to go. And same thing with family as well. They might fall by the wayside or you might find you're having a lot of disagreements because all of a sudden you've chosen to set your boundaries, and they're like, well, why is she doing that? She's never done that before. We've been able to, take advantage of her all this time, so it's kind of just allowing yourself to just be where you need to be and trust. And again, coming back to the trust word's going to be another one that's going through this phase right now is
keyword.
Trusting. Yeah, trusting. And it's a good thing because I don't think we've always been able to do that with ourselves or others, depending, or we've trusted so much. There's always been this kind of interesting concept of trust to where we trust so much that we've gotten ourselves into situations where we're like, oh, well, that was a big mistake, but again, that's how we learn. That's how we learn. So.
And, you're talking about trust and sometimes trusting too much, but yet needing to learn to trust at the same time. And I think about all of a sudden I have the flash of the full moon in Virgo and what's the opposite of that Pisces sun, which is all about trust and faith, is that Virgo energy where the full moon is going to be this month, which is about discernment. So, there's this balance that needs to happen between trusting and surrendering and having faith versus having discernment and creating good boundaries for ourselves at the same time. And sometimes that can be a little tricky, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that, especially when it goes from here in your heart to here. Because that's what I find is when people get their mind going, I always say it goes into the swirling vortex of doom, to where we start with like an amazing, like we have this great, okay, I'm going to create this workshop. It's going to be amazing. And it comes from here and you get excited. It's like Colleen and I on our podcast in a way, it's like we get excited and we're like, oh, yay, this is going to be exciting. And then you sit with it because you didn't act on it, and you sit with it and you sit with it and you sit with it and you sit with it. And all of a sudden you're here to where like, well, I don't know if that's going to work. Is it going to be right? Blah, blah, blah. Is it going to be, we start to get into that human mind, and it starts to go around and around and around and around. To then we don't know what to do. We just don't know what to do, because now we've got ourselves so confused. We've forgotten what the original thought ever was to begin with, because we've gone way off the deep end. So, it's kind of like catching yourself in that moment. And this is one of the things I've actually even had happen to me, to where I'm like, okay, let's just pull ourselves back from the cliff. Like you're so close that you're about to plummet off the cliff. Let's just pull her back for a minute, take a breath, and I will say again and again and again, it's so important to get outside. Just step outside. I don't care if it's freezing where you are. I don't care if it's too hot where you are. Just take a nice deep breath, because what it does is it just starts to shift you away from what's going on, away from that sort of swirling vortex, and starts to calm your energy down to where you're like, okay, I can think now. Now let's just step back and say, okay, where was I first excited about this concept or this thought or whatever's going on? So, and then because, and the other thing that's become really clear, I just had this conversation with someone, is that when we are in that high vibrational moment to where we are being pushed so strongly or moved from one place to another, depending on what's going on in your life, we tend to, again, the anxiety starts to go, our heart starts to pound, the anger starts to our frustration starts to get big, to like, when am I going to get past it? I just want to get past this. But what happens is, if you grab that energy, you start to create it, and you start to create it, and you start to, then before you know it, you're manifesting that. You're manifesting that frustration, that anger, that anxiety, which how anything new is ever going to come in that moment. New things could come, but I don't think they're the kind of things you'd want to have come. I'm just going to say that. But once you can then clear your mind and say, okay, I've allowed myself to get it out, because that's sort of important too, is you have to allow yourself to feel the feelings. Whatever those feelings are, it's important to feel those feelings. Right. Then you can say to yourself, okay, I allowed myself to go there. Now let's have a little clarity. Let's come back. Let's try to see how we can get through this. Right.
Yeah. And that's, going back to nature and meditation. I mean, that's why these things are so important for us, to be able to, kind of take that breath and clear our minds and not get caught in that mental loop where we're, regurgitating something over and over and over again in our mind that might not be what it is that we want to manifest. It's just those fears and anxieties that kind of come in. And it's not something that happens. So why allow yourself to kind of go there and keep revisiting there? It's like, take a deep breath, as Kathy said, focus on, I like to play music when I meditate, because to me, if I'm just trying to sit in silence, my mind can wander too much and go back to that mental loop, thing. But if I'm playing some sort of Native American music or Tibetan bowls or something like that, I start to focus on that. Mm-hmm. Instead, and that helps me to not allow the mind to go back into that less than positive space, as I like to call it.
Right. Phone a friend. Phone a friend. Go out for lunch. Go have margaritas. Or whatever speaks to you. Go have chocolate. Go out and have chocolate.
Hug a tree. Walk barefoot on the ground. Go sit next to the ocean or a lake.
Go for a drive. Today was such a gorgeous day where I am. I didn't want to go home because it was so beautiful. Couldn't think of a park anywhere in my mind, because I thought, I'd like to just go to a park because it's so gorgeous. Right. Couldn't think of any. But again, just doing something like that. Anything that's going to shift you. The other thing I find is having a tribe around you. I call my friends my tribe. Having a tribe, calling and getting a reading, because I just need to have a little validation. Right. I just need to have somebody outside of myself help me to focus. Mm-hmm. Not such a bad thing.
No.
Trust me. We've both done that.
Absolutely. So let's go back to, as we wind kind of up our, podcast for this month, let's go back to the original thought of finding ourselves, or how did you phrase it? We are the ones that we're looking for.
You're the one you're looking for. Absolutely. You are the one you're looking for. Any happiness and joy that you're looking for is right here. It's within you.
Mm-hmm.
It's within you. And we truly can manifest anything that's meant to be for our highest and greatest good. We truly can manifest that and truly can put that out there. And I will tell you, taking a leap of faith, walking through the fear, if there's something you want to do, my guides are like so loud with that one. I'm just going to say that right up front, because there's something recently that I was like, should I do that? Should I really do that? And I'm like, it kind of gets me a little, and now I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be doing that. I'd already decided that, but it was just kind of a little validation for me. But again, walking through the fear, phoning a friend, keeping the people that can really support you and love you around you is so important.
I was just going to say, I think that is such an important piece to, be able to have, even if it's one or two people that you can really count on that are always going to uplift or support or be positive for you with what you're going through. And it's not to say that you have to, get rid of the rest of the people in your life or friends or family. But I really feel like when you're going through a time that's tough or challenging or frustrating, I mean, you really do want to just surround yourself with those people that are the most uplifting, that can, inspire you. And not those that are going to tell you what to do or make the decisions for you, but those that are going to listen, offer maybe some sound advice, perhaps, but still allow you in your own sense of self-identity and in your own kind of independence, if you will, to make the choices that are best for you, but they're kind of holding you. They're holding space for you. They're supporting you.
Absolutely.
Just love.
Well, and it's interesting that because I just had this experience, when you reach out to sort of vent for a moment, and usually I always forewarn my friends, like, okay, I'm just calling because I really need to vent right now. But the funny thing was, the other day when I went to do that, the person that I was calling picked up the phone and said, "Oh, I'm so glad you called." And she started venting. But it was funny. At first, it does take you back because you're kind of like, oh, like I wanted to vent. But then that quickly goes away because I love her and she's such a good friend. But it really helped me to vent anyway. That was the funny thing, is that I found through her frustration, it kind of helped me to release my frustration, if that makes sense. So again, it's not just being able to call and connect that way, but it's also allowing that if they have something going on to, that yin and yang, that balance, which of course brings us back to the Chariot. I'm just saying. But again, it's kind of like how this all becomes interconnected. Everything becomes interconnected. And then just, again, trusting and believing you are where you're meant to be, no matter what's going on, whether the frustration is there, whether it's not, having the tribe around you to help you. If you are not feeling well, because coming back to those health symptoms, and we all love to self-diagnose, but I'm just saying, be careful about that. Be careful about self-diagnosing yourself. There comes a point, even us intuitives who really like to self-diagnose, because I'm just going to say that, there comes a point to where you give yourself I give myself a time limit, and if it's not gone, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I better just call somebody, just to make sure that it's not anything that's, that's really seriously with you. But then also not freaking out because something's going on with you either. Taking that one step at a time, and just remember that everything is being seen very clearly right now, because we talked about the full moon. And that going through March, March is St. Patrick's Day, and I'm an Irish girl, so I love the month of March because it's a great time, to have some fun. So get out there, and have some fun. It's great to sit and focus on yourself and go through all of this and have some clarity with all of this. But when it comes down to, go have some fun. Like, you've worked on yourself today, good for you. Go have some fun now. Like, treat yourself.
Yeah. And clarity regarding your life path, your destiny path, and forward movement, in career and who you are, that clarity will be even more forthcoming, I want to say probably by next month. Mm-hmm. So when we reconvene next month, we'll have a new kind of energy forecast for you, and information messages from our angels and guides, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more sense of groundedness or purpose, or again, clarity, and seeing some more forward movement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So hang in there. Hang in there. It's coming. It's coming.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to Empowered Voices. We'll see you next month.
Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and please like us on Facebook. And if you need anything, please ask your questions, because we would love to hear what you want to know about. You know, if you've got anything going on.
Email us at empoweredvoices11@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And many blessings to you all till next time.
Blessings, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.